All right, here's a quick explanation of how we do some task management stuff and our assembly process and packaging in order to reduce errors without requiring a lot of unnecessary labor. So an example would be to make sure we have our counts correct, we will often pre-lay out certain pieces of hardware and packaging so that we have matched numbers of parts to be assembled, hardware to assemble them with, and then bags to package them in. And if we wind up with anything extra or anything missing, if our numbers don't line up, we know we have a problem somewhere. So in this case, with a Filster floodlight, we would count out 60 stickers, 60 bags, pre-assemble those, put the stickers on the bags, and then we would count out 60 tech locks. And at the assembly bench, when they get put together, we would have the right numbers of things. So if we use all the tech locks, we've got the right number of holsters. Then when we go to package them up, we should use all the extra bags. We should use all the bags and have no extras. And then when it comes to actually organizing the steps from buffing to assembly to packaging, we try to put a different person on each station so that one person is not running multiple sequential steps, so that we have different sets of hands on the part, because one person might miss something, and if they do steps 5, 6, and 7 all in a row, if it's the same person handling the part at each station, they will continue to not catch the error they didn't catch the first time. Whereas somebody else might pick up the part and go, wait a minute, this is on backwards, or you've got the wrong screw in here. And so staggering who does which step is a way for us to get multiple sets of eyes on each finished part without requiring two people to do the same step in a redundant way. So it's that balance of redundancy and efficiency. When we go to do actual packaging, we always do a layout of all of our parts in an orientation that allows us to see the critical hardware, in this case a tech lock, and that its orientation on the part is correct. So we would use this table to lay out 60 or 80 parts at a time, and then we play a game of one of these things is not like the other. Rather than handling the parts one at a time and trying to mentally checklist, is this right, is that right, is this right, we lay all the parts out, and then anybody in the shop, usually we have two people, do a quick scan over, going by row, looking at every part, making sure the orientation of the parts is correct, the mounting of the tech lock is correct, the number of screws is correct, and you can do a quick scan, and all you have to notice is if any of the parts doesn't match all the other parts. Whereas if you do checks one at a time, where you're looking at the complete part as a single, you have to mentally keep a picture of the correctly assembled part and then compare it to the thing in your hand. That's more likely to make mistakes. When it comes to actual packaging, anytime we have to package hardware, with the OWB floodlights, we actually have a kit of green, yellow, and red fasteners and spacers that go with this to allow it to be adjusted to different size guns. Rather than bagging one holster and adding the hardware kit and then squeezing the air out and sealing it up and setting it aside as ready to box, we break down the packaging into multiple steps, because the more steps you're trying to keep together in a chunk, the more likely you are to miss one. Some things can't be missed because each step builds on the next. Like you can't attach a tech lock and forget to put the screws in and have the tech lock stay on. But when you're combining things into a package to ship them, you can leave something out and you can still get the package in and sealed up and have it go. So we would put all the holsters in the bags, stand the bags up open, and then in a separate step, go back and add the hardware kits, and every time we add a hardware kit, we move the bag. So we have an unkitted side and a kitted side, and the person adding those is going 1, 2, 3, drop, shift, so that all the ones that have the hardware added are separated from the ones, so we're not going over a big pile of stuff and dropping in hardware and then getting more and dropping in more, because that's a recipe for either double kitting or missing one that's out there in the middle someplace. So I almost always go green, yellow, red, set them in, move them over, grab the next one, green, yellow, red, fold them up, drop them in, move it over, and then we go, when they've all got their hardware kits together, we pick them up, squeeze the air out, we seal them up, and then they get set aside, and the person bagging them every third or fourth gives the holster bag a shake, and you can hear with a shake check whether there's hardware in. And if we find any that don't, we stop everything, we unpack the box, and we inspect and make sure we caught the problem. But having it done that way, where a visual check of everything as a batch, then bagging by itself, then adding hardware kits by itself, then sealing, then shake, check, and box, is a way for us to get multiple people's hands on the stuff at that critical point in the process without having us do redundant work, without having us having to open up a bunch of bags and recheck them, and as a way of avoiding one person having process overload and trying to keep track of too many things at once and just missing something and shipping a holster without the hardware kit that's supposed to go with it. So we break down the process into little granular steps that are so self-contained that they're almost impossible to get wrong. They're not taxing mentally. They're easy to do. You can be listening to a podcast. You're not having to think real hard. Green, yellow, red, into the bag, shift it over. That way, we're not taxing our ability to concentrate. We're not tiring ourselves out. And we get multiple people in the process, so we've got multiple sets of eyes and hands on everything. And that has helped us reduce our shipping errors substantially. And then, at the end, we have a packing slip and 2 people sign off on it, so we know exactly what we have, exactly the count, what day it went out, and who checked it. That's how we do it here.